3 days of darkness. There's been some talk about the 3 days of darkness mentioned in Revelation chapter 6, verses 12 through 17. Uh, Most get this information from the teaching of the Roman Catholic Church. The Roman Catholic Church and many evangelical churches use one of the false methods of interpreting God's word, which is called amillennialism, which also uses the allegorical and spiritualizing method of interpreting God's word. Um, uh, Using any of these methods of interpretation, one can make God's word say anything they want it to. It is difficult to change God's word by using the literal method of interpretation, which is the correct method. The Roman Catholic Church teaches that this 3 days of darkness comes because of man's refusal to obey God and follow in the path of righteousness. They go back to the Old Testament in Exodus chapter 10, verse 21, and claim it will be like those 3 days of darkness in the time of Moses. They use four Catholic mystics to say that during the 3 days of darkness, people should remain in their homes. They should pray the rosary and beg God for mercy. The enemies of the church, including those who are known and unknown, will perish during this time. The air will also be filled with demons, and they will appear in all kinds of forms. They claim that the only light that will be possible are the people with the blessed beeswax candles, and those made by the Catholic Church. And if you don't have one of these, you will have no light. But on the other hand, lost people who manage to get one of these candles will find that they do not work for lost people, nor for Christians outside the Catholic Church. Lots more could be written on their beliefs, but this is enough for us to now take a look at the truth of God's Word. So we'll begin reading in Revelation chapter 6, verses 12 through 17. And it says, And I beheld when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell unto the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs, when she is shaken of a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll, when it is rolled together, and every mountain and island were moved out of their places. And the kings of earth, and the great men, and the rich men, and the chief captains, and the mighty men, and every bondman, and every freeman hid themselves in the dens and in the rocks of the mountains, and said to the mountains and rocks, Fall on us, and hide us from the face of him that sitteth on the throne, and from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? So these verses gives us a dramatic and awful picture of this time. This refers to the last half of the 7-year tribulation, which is called the Great Tribulation. And you must also realize that the church has been snatched out or raptured prior to the beginning of the 7-year tribulation. This Great Tribulation ends with the second coming of Christ. Romans 11:26 tells us that all Israel will be saved during the or near the end of this Great Tribulation. And this tribulation is mostly for Israel. And we can also see that Jesus supports this in Matthew 24:7. We also see the heavens departing as a scroll in Isaiah 34, verse 4. And the book of Joel gives us lots of information on the Great Tribulation by telling us of the earthquake and the sun becoming black. And you'll find that in Joel chapter 2, verse 2 and 10 and 30 through 31. In verse 17, we see that this is the great day of his wrath. But there's no way to say this is a 24-hour period, as it says there in the verse, a day. But we can say that it will last as long as it takes to fulfill these prophecies. There is also no mention of darkness as the Roman Catholic Church and their mystics claim, nor is there anything saying it will last 3 days or less than 3 days or more than 3 days. And also, for the church today to endure this dramatic judgment, the day of his wrath, is additional proof. When we look at 1 Thessalonians 4, verses 13 through 18, we see the rapture of the church. And verse 18 tells us to comfort one another with these words. It is no comfort if the church were to go through the tribulation. This means that the church is already gone, and what is left is apostates, which will be destroyed in this outpouring of wrath. There will be those that are saved during the tribulation, and they will eventually be taken into the millennial reign of Christ after his second coming. So it appears like the Catholic Church might even be destroyed at the end of this tribulation. Much more could be mentioned about this. It's really a deep subject, but we are just looking at the false teaching of the 3 days of darkness. Enough has been mentioned to prove that that teaching is false. And I thank you for listening.